Welcome to the SHT podcast. This podcast is created by superhumans, for superhumans, and anyone else who wants to look, feel, and perform like a freaking badass. Your holistic health journey starts here. Rediscover how we...
Yeah!
Paul, sit your ass down.
Wow, you're already in there. You don't even realize it. You don't
Speed it
have
up
to
a
be in the video.
couple octaves.
Just speed it up a couple of octaves.
Yeah.
Speed it up a couple of octaves.
What?
Yeah, a couple of octaves. Let's go.
Hello?
Yeah, a couple of octaves. Let's go.
Let's go what?
Speed it up.
I don't either. I'm just kind of rolling with it, you know?
All right. It's lovely Ashley joining us for not much of an appearance, but we'll get her on here for a true appearance at some point. Come here. Get over here.
Hello.
Look at this beautiful face.
Nice.
You guys are funny.
Is there something wet
Okay,
on
bye.
the table?
Enjoy
All right,
the
see ya.
podcast. Love you, bye.
Fine. Bye, love you.
You got the touch. All right.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, what's up?
What is this, episode
How's your life?
3?
Episode 3.
Episode 3. Life is good. Life is great.
Yeah?
Crushed the workout. I'm hurting physically.
All right. And
But I'm
people
just so
listening,
happy.
they can't see it, but yeah,
No,
D-balls
yeah.
are great.
My arms are skinned.
D-balls are great. Yeah, mine
It's
too.
wonderful.
It's one of my favorite movements because it's just nothing but brute manliness.
Yeah,
Throwing
I
that thing around.
experienced so
Or
much
womanliness
brute
in you.
manliness. No.
Yeah.
I was so manly this morning. I loved it.
But you carried yourself really elegantly.
Thank you.
Yeah, as
Thank
you were doing
you.
the manliness
Thank
part
you.
of it. Yeah.
At the Eye of the Tiger going on
Mhm,
today. How was your day?
Great.
Yeah.
Beat John Nixon.
There we go.
Tied him and then beat him. So that's and John Nixon is 15 years younger than me, maybe 13
Yep.
or something like that. So, but I love him, man. He's my push.
He's
it was really
wonderful.
good working out with him because we haven't worked out together in
Yeah.
forever.
Your
so,
Fridays are now your days
Yeah.
to work out together.
Yeah,
just
and
push
I'm
each
trying to tell Colby always to program something nasty so that
Yeah.
we
Oh
have something
my-
to compete against each other with, you know.
So that when we've been through the brutal nastiness of the
Of the
week,
week.
Friday will be the worst.
the finale.
That makes
That's
sense.
right. Yeah.
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, remember we talked about we were going to dive into the food stuff, but I felt
Yes.
like there was something that I wanted to cover, so this is going to be our best shot at something before that.
Oh,
And
for
so,
sure. We can cover food.
Yeah.
Episode 4. We
Yeah.
can.
So we'll start with foods to avoid at our next episode.
Perfect.
And but today I wanted to talk about because I'm trying to picture like what would people benefit from hearing as we go through this,
Mm-hmm.
and of course thinking about our SHT community, but then newcomers. I think it would be beneficial to talk about our wisdom and how we come up with our guidelines and some things to consider around that.
Love that because a lot of people who haven't been in the SHG community for a while or somebody who's just joining us is probably going to go, okay. And they'll probably say this, where do you get this information from?
Where do you get this information?
How
Yeah.
are you qualified? What makes you, valuable, trustworthy? Where do you get your information? So
Yeah. Or how do we come up with our guidelines? Yeah,
Yes,
that's great.
how do we come
and
up
did
with
I tell
our
you about the
guidelines?
story about my client down at Whole Foods that was going through our guide
No.
I didn't tell you about that.
No.
So all of our stuff is original. That's one thing that I love about what we're doing is it is not something that you can read a book and regurgitate it somewhere. It's not just and I was going to say that it's not just another paleo program, but of course there's paleo thought leaders that have their own way of doing paleo and their
For
own
sure.
unique way of doing all the different protocols, autoimmune, I mean, you name it, there's a million different variations of it, but this is something that's been honed over years of working with people. And but anyway, I was visiting with one of my clients down at Whole Foods, and he's traveling in. I think it's so cool. He drives up here from Arizona to see us from Flagstaff.
really?
Yeah, every 2 weeks he drives a couple hours,
Wow.
and then we sit down there and have our sessions. And I try to make my clients self-reliant and
Yes.
and use the guide and the materials we give them as much as possible. So he asked a question. I was like, okay, well, let's look and see if we can find it in the guide. So we flipped to a page. I said, here we go. I said, I want y'all to read that right there. And let me know when you're done. I said, okay. And then I asked him the question. I said, now, can you tell me your answer to your question? And he did,
Yeah.
And he's like, and what I really like is what they say right here, And I was like, they. I was like, what do you mean by they? Who's they? And he's like, well, whoever wrote the book. I was like,
Oh my goodness.
I
Well,
was
he
like-
thought that you
Yeah.
got it from somewhere.
well, I don't know. I mean, I guess, who
Yeah.
knows? And I don't think there's anything
Interesting.
right or wrong about that, but I was like, brother, this is us. This is
Yeah,
our
like-
thing.
like
this
we
is what
wrote
we've
this.
honed
Yes.
over years
You
of working
wrote
with
this.
people. Yeah.
Wow.
And I would say we've written it because, and we'll talk about this today, but this is, our methodology is a hybrid of ancestral plus modern and hip plus experiential knowledge.
Yeah.
We've had a couple thousand people go through our programs.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not something that you're going to find anywhere, because I think the biggest crucial piece of it is, once we come up with those guidelines from ancestral health and modern information, is the experiments that we put ourselves through, and the experience and the feedback that we get from the people that we work with, because our guidelines always change.
For sure.
I mean, I'm sure they've changed since the first time you went through it. I can't remember what it was like back then, but it was probably very similar,
but different testing. You're testing different things that we never tested.
Cool.
You know, for example, alcohol. You know, certain things like that. So yeah, totally different.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I cannot believe he thought that.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's kind of
I think
nuts.
it's pretty neat, actually, in a way. It's like, oh, this is a good. I was like, yeah. Our guide started out as 4 pages. Like,
What?
The first guide I ever came up with, I still haven't. I remember the first presentation I ever did. It was a really simple foods to avoid, real food,
Wow.
some basic structuring guidelines.
Okay, when we're done with this, I want you to show me.
Yeah, I have a guide over there. It's called the Powered by Real Food Guide. It's pretty cool, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I absolutely love that.
All right, so yeah.
So within our community, we experiment. We go through things that work. But what would you say? Something in our community that we say a lot is optimal versus what
Optimal
works. What do you
is
mean
the
by that?
word, okay?
Yeah.
So I think optimal is a lot softer than perfection or perfect.
Oh, amen.
So I like optimal, right?
Yeah.
So I want us to understand this concept of, we want what's optimal, or we want to strive for what's optimal. We want what's optimal versus what just seems to work. Mm-hmm. And by the way, what seems to work may not be working because of what you think it is. So,
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say here is, we have a lot of people that come to us and they are doing something that they think is working for them, okay? Whether it's eating every 2 or 3 hours, Shakeology, protein shakes and bars, some nutrition program that they're, some person at a personal trainer gave them in a gym, whether it's some of the popular methodologies, which we're going to discuss all those, like whatever it is, you have to consider the possibility that the reason that you're seeing results is not the methodology in and of itself, but the fact that that methodology made you do something better than you were doing before.
Yes.
Okay? So if I'm doing completely the wrong thing and just eating, processed food to a large degree, a lot of bread, a lot of pastries, whatever normal people do or what we used to do before coming into this, and then I visit with the personal trainer and I get this little program where I'm having a shake every 2 or 3 hours and, counting my calories and controlling my portions and putting stuff into MyFitnessPal, and I start to lose weight and see some changes happen. That doesn't mean that that is the best way to do things.
Yeah.
It just, maybe it's just better than what you were doing before. And I think people get caught up in, well, that worked for me when I did it. Or this girl that's selling me this program, this shake program, like she lost 60 pounds. Well, maybe she did lose 60 pounds, but it doesn't mean that that was the best way to do things.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to say with our program is, this is striving for optimal, and it's always evolving. That's the thing. We are not like set in stone, but what we're trying to do is bring the best of everything to everyone, so that what we put out as far as our guidelines go has taken into account popular methodologies, ancestral health, modern functional medicine, alternative practitioners, and just, it's just a hybrid of all the best
All
of the
of
best. Yeah. Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it.
Yep.
So when you talk about our 3 main points that we want to talk about today, being optimal, having the hip, modern lifestyle, the ancestral wisdom. Let's talk about a known fact and a known term that we talk about, conventional wisdom.
CW.
Can you break that down?
We reread it. CW. CW. Conventional wisdom. Well, I don't know if I had to ask you what it was in your own layman's terms. Can you break it down?
Yeah, I mean everything that society has taught us about before we sought after this, before we give this out. I would say conventional wisdom is very much what's accepted by society as correct, but is not optimal. It's the
and there may be some truth in it, but yeah, you're right. Yes, it's what everybody thinks
is correct.
Yeah.
The eating every 2 hours a day, the juice detoxes, all of that.
Those are examples
stuff.
of it.
Examples,
but
for sure.
In general, it would be, it's the information that everybody believes. Nobody really knows why they believe it. They just kind of believe it. You hear things about it in the news, and you see some Facebook. By the way, when someone comes to me and they say, I read this new research article on blah, blah, blah. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't a research article. It was a blog post or a Facebook post or an Instagram
it was
picture.
an opinion,
You know what I'm saying?
fact,
It wasn't
yeah.
a research article, in PubMed or anything. But yeah, conventional wisdom textbook definition would be ideas or explanations generally accepted as true by public or by experts in a field, and such ideas or explanations, though widely held, are unexamined and unproven, and societal habits preserve the status quo. So we all know that saturated fat's bad for you and that eating pork is dirty. And why do we know that? I don't know. We just all know it. And so we just keep doing it, So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought like that for years. My mom used to cook pork when we were younger, and she just quit flat out when society said, nope, pork is bad for you. Saturated fat is bad.
What a tragedy.
Stay far away. Oh, yeah.
What a tragedy.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So what would you say the prevailing or current or more out there conventional wisdom communities, societies, programs are out there? What would you say are most prevailing?
So let's talk about conventional wisdom, the pervasive current conventional wisdom when it comes to nutrition, right? Fat clogs arteries and causes cholesterol problems.
Yeah.
Right? Still out there.
I know, right?
Still out there.
I know.
Yeah. Meat is bad for the heart, and eating red meat causes cancer. We have at least one time a year a huge freaking, some kind of news, something that comes up, and there's just a big stink about it.
I actually drove by a billboard before I came over here. It said, "Don't treat me like a piece of meat," and it had like a woman's clothing over a bed or something, and then it said, "Don't eat meat, go vegan." I didn't understand the advertisement.
We need to put some billboards up.
I really agree.
That would be great.
We'll look into that.
We need to look into how much that costs.
But yeah. The whole meatless society is coming to play.
Yeah. So, and on that note, so another conventional wisdom view is plant-based is healthy. Juicing is healthy.
Oh, I did that for a while.
I did too.
Yeah. Have you watched the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead?
Yeah. So I think that's a classic example of something that's better than what was being done before, but it doesn't mean that it's the best thing to do.
Yes. I agree.
And been there, done that with juicing.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, we incorporate a little bit of juicing here and there, but whole grains are healthy. I can't believe that that's still out there, but whole grains are healthy.
All those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Paul.
Made with whole wheat. Whole wheat. I hope we come back to that. I think we do. We are going to come back to that. So the whole grains, okay. So remind me when we get to that, the progression, what I consider my progression of bread. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Eating complex carbohydrates versus simple carbohydrates. I mean, I felt like that was something that I remember hearing a lot back in my bodybuilding days.
Can you give an example of simple versus complex?
Well, simple would be like sugars that are processed super fast, and complex would be things that have fiber and other things that slow the digestive process of it or something like that.
All right.
Eating more fruits and vegetables is a conventional wisdom view, and in fact, it is the number one nutrition advice that we hear everywhere to combat anything and everything. Like Americans need to eat more fruits and vegetables, and we're not really debating that, but the message needs to be a little bit different.
Agreed.
Eating every 2 or 3 hours.
This is the worst one, in my opinion, because there's not enough Tupperware, there's not enough time in the day, and there's not enough money. I'm just saying.
Dude, we need to write those 3 points down on a poster and put it up here.
It is too neurotic for me, so I
and my interview with Pam today, like that's the big thing she was talking about. She's like, it's just I just couldn't, even if it was working, I couldn't sustain it.
Too much. You can't. I agree.
Sustain it, and it's not natural. But counting calories, controlling portions.
Yeah.
Other conventional. All right. MyFitnessPal stuff.
I been there, done that. Oh yeah.
And then exercising more and eating less is another mainstream piece of advice that we hear and see all the time. Meaning, what I feel like that says is it's basically saying it's your fault. Okay, you know what? You need to. You're overweight because it's your fault. You need to exercise more, and you need to stop eating so much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Knowing the knowledge that I have now, if a doctor told me that, or if anybody told me that, some nutritionist, I would walk out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Or maybe try to give them a book. I got some really good books to give to doctors, actually.
Yes.
Gary Taubes' Good Calories, Bad Calories is a good one. So that was the nutrition conventional wisdom. And then I'm just going to touch on a few things that would be maybe considered fitness conventional wisdom. I'll probably get Colby in here and we'll have a little discussion about that. But if I need to lose weight, then what that means is, what the heck was that?
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I'm dropping things. We're good.
So if I decide that I need to lose weight, then that means I need to go work out. That's conventional wisdom around fitness, right? Not saying working out's not beneficial. True. It's like, I need to work on this, so I need to go work out. I need to start working out.
Yeah.
Or when people fall off, they come back and they're always saying, and like, I've kind of, lost it a little bit, blown up. I know I need to start working out again.
I need to add more cardio.
Yeah.
I need to add more of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, if something hurts, don't move. So, so people experience some kind of a discomfort or injury, and the mainstream recommendation is going to be like, don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, just stay there, right? And we would say you need to work around that.
Yeah,
because
you need to strengthen the muscles around it in order for it to heal.
Or do something different.
Yeah.
So the other parts of your system can get better. Working out longer is better. That's conventional wisdom, right? The more you can work out, the more beneficial it's going to be for you. The more time you can spend in the gym, the more time you can spend running, the more beneficial it's going to be.
Get on a treadmill for an hour, then go lift some weights for another 30 minutes. Like it's toxic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Working out is the solution for everything.
I'm laughing. I'm just laughing.
I mean, and we're fitness fanatics, but I mean, it's great. Working out is the solution for everything. That's just what it feels like, right? Anytime someone has an issue, need to work out. I need to join a gym, right? And then my favorite is losing your function, your capabilities is losing it is a natural progression from the aging process.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah.
To hear people say, "Oh, don't worry, in 70 years I'll be in a nursing home. Don't worry about me."
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Why do you expect that? Why should you expect that? You should expect more for yourself and seek out ways to prevent that.
Yeah. Well, they don't know. I mean, they don't know. And I thought that too. I was like, okay, over time and some things do change, but I feel like most of us are proving like it's not about getting older, it's about getting better. It really is. You can get better. You can get better.
It's not about getting older, it's about getting better.
Hashtag getting better, not older.
I love that.
Yeah. Some other conventional wisdom things, just to touch on, I think we're in an instant gratification society.
We are.
And people are so used to having things immediately. And the view needs to be just a little bit different.
I agree.
Avoiding the sun and always needing to cover up and put sunscreen on, another conventional wisdom view. One of my big, my pet babies, whatever I'm going to be focusing on a lot here in the near future is going to be EMFs and radiation, or electromagnetic frequencies, radiation, dirty electricity. Those things really don't do anything to us. They have no impact on our physiology. Okay.
My question to people who say that, and it's a very loving question, but it's very much, how do you have enough research over time to tell us that?
Well,
because you don't, they're fairly new, especially with all the technology that's been coming out.
Well, it is, but I mean, and not to go off on too far of a tangent on it, but like if I'm listening to some music from a radio station miles away, where's that stuff coming through?
Yeah.
It's getting to me through all of this, and that's something is going through everything and everyone, and
oh yeah.
So there has to be some kind of an impact.
Not to go off on a tangent, but yes.
Meditation, because that is one of our foundations, meditation, mindfulness. So another conventional wisdom view is that meditation is for monks and weird people and hippies, and not for religious people for sure. Because if you're religious, you can't meditate because it's going against your religion.
Prayer is meditation. Just saying.
It can be viewed as
it's a part of meditation for sure.
Yeah. We always need to wear shoes when we go outside. Keep our feet from getting dirty. I know some people don't like to get dirty, and that's fine. But I mean, understanding what's good about it would be different,
Yes.
If a doctor prescribes it, it's okay over the long term. Now, we're not saying don't go with your doctor's recommendations or advice, but the prescription medications, although necessary in some situations, are proven and known to be liver toxic and have all kinds of different side effects. So. And then not getting dirty, because it just drives me nuts. Again, we're talking about conventional wisdom views of things. There's hand sanitizers everywhere, and you just need to wipe yourself down and wipe everything down every time you do anything, and we don't know that that's necessarily the best advice. So. Now, the problem with conventional wisdom is, we would say, number one, most of that advice that people are following is influenced by money. And a lot of research that is out there is not true research, because when you start to look at funding sources and who the research is done for, if I'm a scientist and I depend on money from a certain organization for my grant, then when I do my research, I'm kind of like predisposed to want to give them the results that they're looking for. So you have to be really careful about that.
You're going to have a little bit of bias behind it.
A lot of times you will. So you have to understand how to interpret and read the research. And then also the conventional wisdom view, there's a lot of pride behind it. Because, you know, if for 40 years we've been perpetuating this whole saturated fat thing about food, you know, like I just have a hard time seeing, no matter how clear the research is, no matter how clear the experiential evidence and knowledge is, seeing that the American Heart Association would reverse their stance on that.
Oh my gosh.
I just don't see it. There's so much momentum behind it, so much pride behind it.
A little bit of an uproar if all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You know, the American Association is like,
it would
we
be
were
great.
wrong.
Yeah,
you know,
it would be
wonderful.
Well, yeah.
But so you know, with all of this being said, with conventional wisdom, and you know, you talking about your research, where do you find that most people get this information from?
Well, like we mentioned before, I mean, most people not knowing any better, it's from the media. You know, from news. The Tonight Show, O'Reilly. Love Bill O'Reilly, by the way, though. I used to love watching him. Does he still do shows? I don't even know. I don't watch TV anymore. I
don't really watch much TV.
I have not plugged in my TV except maybe 2 times since I've lived in my place for 2 years.
I stream Netflix, Hulu.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so most people are getting their health information from news, radio, Facebook, social media, you know, things like that. And then we've already said, a lot of research is not true research. You have to understand how to interpret it. If I'm a news reporter and I don't have a background in health or nutrition or whatever it is that I'm reporting on, and I see this abstract of an article that's probably biased and flawed in the first place, and then I put my own spin on it, not being an expert in that, and then the problem with that is that people are watching this and listening, and so this is where we get like, today eggs are bad for us. Tomorrow, honey, did you hear? We got to stop drinking coffee. The next day, wait, coffee is good for you. Wait, chocolate is good for. But chocolate's bad for you. But like, it's it's insanity.
Yeah. Everything every person reads what they read and then they believe it to be true. Yeah. And you know, you just have to start questioning. You know, have an open mind and question and do your research and do it the proper way. So I agree with you.
Yep.
So you covered our approaches, but you know, listen one more time and give me like a.
Okay, so the reason that we went over that is just to understand what most people believe and what conventional wisdom is. So the way that we come up with our guidelines is we use ancestral wisdom, which is exactly what it sounds like. We'll touch on that a little bit right now. I'm hoping. I keep checking the clock because I'm trying to keep this around 30 to 45 minutes.
You're
not
okay.
go too long.
You're okay.
So you don't think we're going too long?
No, I don't think so. We need this information.
Okay, cool.
So
all right.
You're good.
So the way that we come up with our guidelines is we use ancestral wisdom.
Yes.
All right, which is kind of what it sounds like, and we'll cover a little bit more here in just a moment.
Yep.
We combine that with current relevant science and information because we are always following the thought leaders in functional medicine and alternative holistic health.
Yes.
And staying up to date on all that information, popular methodologies that work. And so we combine ancestral wisdom with that modern piece, and we come up with some guidelines, some hypotheses. And then the final piece of that is, the third component is personal and client experience and or you could think experiments. Yeah. So we come up with these guidelines, and in the beginning, a lot of what I gave to my clients, they didn't know it. I didn't tell them, but like I was experimenting on them.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
I would learn some stuff, try it on myself. Oh, wow, this works pretty good for me. So now I'm going to try it on this person, see if it works. And then over time, I started to, okay, this works for a lot of people. So these are some good general guidelines. And then the more people that we work with, the more feedback we get. And that's how we hone our guidelines. We use ancestral wisdom, modern, and then we have experience. And we've mentioned before, a couple of thousand people have been through our group progressions. We've had hundreds of people come through this private practice. And at the same time, we are open to evolution and continuing to update our guidelines based on the information that we learn from people.
I love that. I love that. So let's break down the first one, ancestral wisdom.
So just nutshell overview. This is not meant to be like an anthropological study, but ancestral wisdom, you could think of asking the question, what did our ancestors do that made them so healthy? What is it that they did that we stopped doing that was good for them? Or what is it that they didn't do that we do now that's deleterious for health? Yeah. And so if I look at, my grandparents lived on a farm. They raised their own cows. They had their own other animals, and they had their own garden. Yeah. And I remember going to my grandma's place, and I would help my grandpa fix fences and feed the cattle and bale hay. Man, baling hay was so horrific. That was tough. It was a physically exhausting thing,
Imagine.
But, they ate meat from the cows, they ate produce from the garden, and they were healthy as hell. You know, so I could say, and part of ancestral wisdom is like, what does my direct lineage look like? Like, what is my, and not my unhealthy lineage, but like, what's my, maybe my grandparents, great grandparents, the healthy people in my lineage, what did they do? And that could give me some information about what could be healthy.
Oh, for sure.
You can also do some genetic testing, ancestral reports, and figure out like, what is my lineage like a little bit further back, So like I've done 23andMe, we've done some raw data exports to some different third-party companies where we've gotten some different, it's really fun. It's cool. So like, did you know that this is where I
have never seen this before. Just like you people can't see, well, you'll watch the video, but you can't see this, but he has a graph pulled up of his. Was this 23andMe?
Yeah, 23andMe.
Oh my gosh.
I think maybe this might be Ancestry.com, but I think it's 23andMe.
But this is his breakdown of his lineage. This is
why I say I'm part black.
What?
I'm 3% black.
Oh my gosh, you say that? Dear goodness.
No. Most of my, so if I look at this kind of lineage, right? So we can look at our immediate ancestors, but then we can also think, if my genetic composition is mostly European, and I can pinpoint the area in Europe supposedly that my ancestry comes from, then I could do a little research and say, what did those people used to eat before modernization? And maybe I'm a little bit pre-adapted or predisposed to doing better on those types of foods.
Yeah.
And it can give you an idea of whether you would be dairy intolerant or dairy tolerant based on that kind of ancestry. If your ancestors consumed a lot of dairy, or if they consumed a lot of carbohydrates, maybe your salivary amylase persistency would be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So that would be a really interesting thought experiment to go through.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, love that. Love seeing your breakdown.
Yep. And then the final piece of that would be what we would consider our history and heritage, like as far back as we can imagine humans being human, and that would be as hunter-gatherers. And we hear this argument all the time, but I still think there's parts of it that are good for us to hear. Hunter-gatherers hunt and gather for their food. Okay, so our history on this planet is about 2.5 million years as humans. The human genus has been, most people would argue we were human about 2.5 million years ago. And so that's about 77,000 generations that we've been on this planet living as hunter-gatherers, hunting and gathering for our food. And the agricultural Neolithic revolution started about 10 to 20,000 years ago. So, and the agricultural Neolithic revolution is when we learned to move away from being hunter-gatherers into settling into homes where we can actually raise our own crops and raise our own animals for personal consumption. And I think it was much more convenient, and there's a lot of great things that came from that, but that's also where a lot of things kind of went wrong over the long term, okay? So agricultural revolution, if it started 10 to 20,000 years ago, that's only 350 generations that we've been agriculturalists versus 77,000 generations as hunter-gatherers. And we've only had flour, sugar, and processed food in the picture for about 3 to 5 generations, which is kind
industrial
of crazy.
revolution.
Exactly. All right. So just saying that, I think most people could understand that maybe part of the reason that we're struggling so much is because there's a mismatch between what we're doing now and what our genes are kind of predisposed for.
Yes.
Even though we are always evolving, So putting that into a visual perspective, 99 and a half yards of a football field is our history as hunter-gatherers. Half of a yard is our history as agriculturalists. Half a millimeter of that entire football field is our history eating processed food.
That is nuts.
It's absolutely insane. Yeah. So, if we looked at all of our foundations and tried to piece them together here, before modernization, our movement patterns were dictated by our environment. So we had to hunt, we had to gather, we had to stay relatively active. If you put a pedometer on a hunter-gatherer, a modern hunter-gatherer, they walk usually 20 to 40 miles a day. They have a pretty high low-level activity level. So we were active, you know, and had brief periods of intensity. We got a naturally large amount of sun exposure because we were always outdoors. We rose and slept with light and dark cycles because when it was light outside, that was a signal for energy and activity. And when it was dark outside, that was a signal for rest and recovery and recuperation. Our stresses were very different from what they are now. So our stresses back then may have been a little bit more potentially life-threatening. You know. So, and then the foods that we ate were from the earth. Now contrast that with where we're at in this very modernized world. I don't know. What's our movement? I mean, what is our movement patterns like now?
Oh my gosh!
Unless we pay someone to kick our ass.
Squat into the car
Exactly.
sit in the car, drive to work, sit at a desk.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are prime example. Well, we are not prime examples, but where we live is a prime example. People work from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. You know, they're on opposite sun schedule. They work in the dark, sleep in the day. So
yeah, some of that stuff is unavoidable, because you have your responsibilities and things. But what we're talking about here is this mismatch. We're
Yes.
talking about this ancestral wisdom. So yeah. We don't have to move because we don't have to.
Yep.
We got to pay someone $150 to $200 to kick our ass. And otherwise, we wouldn't. If I run out of food in my refrigerator any day of the year, I can drive down the road and buy fresh food.
Yep.
Right. Did not happen with our ancestors.
Nope.
If I'm really lazy, I can do Uber delivery,
Oh my gosh.
Postmates, whatever those other options are that are out there. Most people never get sun exposure.
Yep.
Because they
We are
think that
told
it's
not
bad
to.
for them. Yeah. And it's a travesty.
I know.
It really is. And then, like you were mentioning, work schedules, family situations, responsibilities, sometimes shift work, but also we have technology. We have electricity, we have, cell phones and computers and television and surround sound and all this stuff. So when the sun goes down, if my ancestors would usually use that as an indication to rest and retire, when the sun goes down for us, if I'm putting on Terminator, and seeing all these flashing lights, and I got speakers all around my head, and I mean the signal is not to rest
go to bed.
and go to bed,
Yep.
And then the foods that we eat are extremely different.
Yeah.
And even the ones that conventional wisdom tell, like where we're supposed to trust our health information from. If you just think about it from this perspective, like eating off of the land is different from eating Wonder Bread or whole wheat bread or Zico bread or whatever.
Fat-free. I can't believe it's not better.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I know.
Now, on top of all that, we got stress.
Oh yeah.
Now, we used to have financial stress, emotional stress. I mean, not the stress that we encounter today. Most of what we encounter is not life-threatening.
No.
But to our bodies, it doesn't make a difference because we're always up in our heads and we're keeping our bodies constantly stressed. We are exposed to pollution we can't get away from. And then, of course, EMFs and radiation, technology, electricity, and all these things. I mean, you combine all that stuff together, it is a recipe for a complete mismatch from what our bodies are anticipating or need to thrive. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but we are genetically always changing. But I feel like right now, in this day and age, it's going downhill.
Yeah.
We're genetically evolving in a worse way.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like there's different groups that different things are happening.
For
with,
sure.
You
For
have
sure.
people that are figuring this stuff out, grassroots movement, and you have the potential for the human species to like have this big upswing and things to improve.
Yeah.
And there's the rest of the population that's just like doesn't know that they don't know, and then it's heading in a different direction.
I know. So tie in all this ancestral wisdom with our community's wisdom.
Let's wrap it up because I think we're trying to keep this around. All right, we're at 32 minutes. I just want to make sure we're not going too crazy. What?
Okay, no, I love it.
I'm priding us on, I like our commitment to be shorter.
I agree. They're easier to listen to.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, all right.
So
we just went through conventional wisdom, ancestral wisdom, our guidelines. So now, this is what we consider our ancestral wisdom and our wisdom as a community.
Yes.
And we will expand on this as we go through future episodes. So fat is very good for you for many reasons.
Yes.
The right kind of fats from the right sources.
Yes.
Right? Meat is extremely good for you.
Very.
For many reasons, okay? And a lot of that has to do with understanding what is my digestive system geared for, okay? But my digestive system is geared for nutrient density and caloric efficiency, and we'll talk a lot about that in future episodes. So plant-based is not healthy over the long term, but it can be used short-term therapeutically for sure, right? So this is a classic example. If I go from eating crap food to doing something that looks vegan or plant-based and I feel great and lose weight, that's awesome, but it's not because you got rid of the meat. It's because you got rid of everything else, you know? Juicing can be healthy as a complement to a real food way of eating, but I can tell you right now, I don't even remember the last time I had a juice.
My Breville, I think that's what they call it, juicers.
Yeah,
was that Breville?
Yeah, the
it's up in my
centrifugal one.
closet.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it for years.
It's fine. If you wanted to do a vegetable juice here and there, it'd be great.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Most of us just don't do it. So whole grains are worthless.
You wanted me to remind you about the bread.
Oh, yeah. So the progression, right?
Yes.
This is just something that I came up with not too long ago. So, because we're always thinking that better is moving in a direction of like, I don't know, like better, I guess. This is kind of going.
Conventional wisdom tells you that with bread we're moving better with white bread to whole grain, to wheat, to whole grain.
Well, so we started with Wonder white bread, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of figured out, okay, maybe that's not the best thing in the world for us. Spikes our blood sugar and has other issues associated with it. So now, okay, let's make it whole wheat.
Yeah.
Let's make it whole wheat, because now it's going to be a little bit slower digesting. We get some of the nutrients from the whole grains. Yep. And so we thought that was a step in a better direction. And then you got people like William Davis, Dr. William Davis, and Wheat Belly, and all the other people that have put a lot of information out about the deleteriousness of grains. So then the message has moved to whole grains.
Yes.
But it's all the same freaking thing.
It is. But I'll give them credit. They're trying.
They're trying. Absolutely, they're trying. But the flawed logic is just because wheat bread is better than white bread doesn't mean that wheat bread is good for you.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we are not about complex or simple carbs. We're about carbs from the right sources, from real food sources, and timing it right in the day. We think that fruits and vegetables are not the solution for health, that they are perpetuated or put out there by most mainstream advice. Americans need to eat more fruits and vegetables. We would say, yeah, that's a part of health, okay?
Yes.
But I think Americans need to eat more meat, fat, and vegetables with a little bit of fruit. That would be a better statement. Instead of eating every 2 or 3 hours, most of us, how many meals a day do you eat right now?
1.
Okay, all right. Most of us eat 1 or 2 meals a day.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because we are nutrient sufficient. We are giving the body what it needs. We have auto-satiation signals, auto-appetite regulating signals, and we are trying to train our bodies to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, metabolically flexible, and to tap into our fat stores for fuel. And when the body understands and learns how to do that, like, meal timing becomes completely irrelevant. And that's why
I have not had a single piece of food yet, and I am so hyped on energy.
Me too.
I have so much energy.
Yeah. I feel like I'm on crack, and I don't necessarily know what that means, but
I don't either. But yeah.
All right. So we focus on nutrients versus calories.
Yes.
So, most people, I think, come into this or come into working with us, and they're so used to focusing on how many calories or how much calories does this food have.
Yes.
And we are focused on how much does this give my body what it needs to function and contribute to the structure and all the different things that have to happen inside the body. We are focused on giving the body what it needs.
Yes. So freeing.
Yep. And when you do that, portions auto-regulate, appetite auto-regulates, and then we start to see fitness as something completely different. So fitness is not a way to burn calories anymore because I'm training my body how to make its own energy. Fitness is a way to strengthen my body, strengthen my systems, and to make me generally prepared for things that happen.
Yes.
So like I always tell people, especially new people coming in here, if the power grid went out in Las Vegas, or if we had some citywide emergency, the first people that I would call are these people here, because they move functionally and they eat real food and they're healthy and happy, and we would band together and we'd be an awesome team.
Yeah.
So you want fitness to be something that prepares you for life, and that's what we do here. So. And then finally, sun is really good for you for many reasons. We'll touch on that at some point down the road.
Yes.
And we believe dirty people are healthier.
Oh yeah. Get in the mud.
Why?
Well, we're getting all of the nutrients from the earth. And we're getting the energy as well. I mean, go outside right now, take your shoes off, and go stick your feet in the grass or the dirt. Feel it. You can feel it.
Absolutely. Energy, microbiome, a little bit of immune system regulation is extremely beneficial. Yeah. All right. A few other things we've already mentioned on working out. Working out is synergistic with real food. So it's not the end-all be-all that everyone thinks it is. Nope. Losing function does not have to happen as you get older, and we have so many people that are examples of that. Like everything about my performance gets better as time goes on. Yeah. And I'm just kind of blown away by it, but it doesn't surprise me anymore. And then, in our community, we are not about instant gratification. We are understanding that this is a lifelong journey, and we need to enjoy the process and be a part of this and be present with it and enjoy this experience that we have with everybody else.
I agree. I agree.
Touching back on one of our values, kind of. What else? EMFs and radiation, we'll touch on that. They do have detrimental impacts on the body, but we can embrace technology. For sure. We just have to be smart about it. Meditation, I think, is healthy, so healthy for every single human being in this modern world, and it has nothing to do with religion.
Nope.
And in fact, if you are religious, it will enhance your religious experience because it does nothing but make you better.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, you know, and we've already touched on the being dirty thing. Now we combine all that stuff with constantly learning from functional medicine doctors, alternative medicine practitioners, the holistic health community, all these different thought leaders, and being in the research, and then always experimenting on ourselves and our people, and that's what makes for our guidelines, and we're pretty damn proud of it.
Oh yeah, I agree. Because people will come into here saying, all right, you talk about the ancestors, but we are thousands of years ahead of them. So what can you tell me about current modern science? And this is exactly what we throw into SHT as well.
Absolutely. And that's so true. Like, there are things that we're doing now that we didn't do before, but they are extremely healthy because we know they're healthy.
For sure.
You know? So,
for sure.
Yeah, so do we think that was useful to cover before diving into the food?
1,000%. Because people can know where our intentions come from when we start diving into real food.
All right, because I'm getting a little self-conscious about spending too much time before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of some of this stuff. So.
Stop with that.
All right.
This was fantastic.
All right.
Okay.
I hope we were rolling on the rehearsal.
No, it was fantastic. Don't worry about it. All right, guys. I hope you all loved this and this helps. And now we're going to move on to real food and dive into what I'm sure is on all of your minds.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you all later.
All right.